Okay, so hello, and this is Deformations. Today we'll be deconstructing the Anunnaki movie by Spirit Science. I don't know his real name, but you'll see a, a clip of him. What is it again? Oh, yeah. Try talking about the Anunnaki, who I will show why it never existed and why this is it's just weird through inconsistencies and problems with coming to Earth. But mainly just us debunking along the way. Bye. Okay, guys. This is our footage. Wait, where's 45? Okay, this is gonna overlap with the last video, sorry. But I promise this will not happen. I will try and make sure that this doesn't happen again. So remember, spirit science isn't science, so let's do it.
Who emerges in the healing of his rib is the goddess Ninti, whose name means both Lady of the Rib and Lady who makes life. As you can tell, there are tremendous parallels to this story of
There isn't tremendous parallels. Unluckily, we were talking about this wasn't how the first human formed.
Eve being created from Adam's rib in Genesis 2, as this is its likely origin.
It isn't. This could be its origin, but it couldn't. It could not. Cause here's the thing about this. The Lord took a rib from Adam's body, while Enki was healed in one of his ribs. That's the opposites of what Enki experienced. In fact, even more so. Eve is immortal, not a deity. And we're also saying, and therefore, are not copyright.
Further, Eve in Hebrew is Hawa, and is most commonly believed to mean living one or source of life. What I find especially
That's probably because us is women normally are the ones who hold babies, and therefore the first one would have been the first mother of another her own species, would be seen as the giver of life, and women are seen as the giver of life, and even the creator of it.
What's interesting about this is that in the Sumerian story,
That's the reason why Eve means that.
The characters on who Adam and Eve are based on are both deities.
They're not. And it could be that they were not based on them. Why are you showing this picture to me?
While the name Adam comes from Adamu, the character seems to be based on Enki, and Eve's name relating to life and being born of Adam's rib fully links her with Ninti. Now,
What?
The second story I mentioned, the Atrahasis, essentially begins as the Enuma Elish ends, with the need for servants for the gods. Instead of Kingu, however, an Anunnaki named Wei Lu, also Lawela, volunteers to be killed for the use of his blood.
Well, he'd probably die anyways because he's on a planet where his heart would beat too fast, and not just that, his blood would literally boil. Not just that, he would get 5 degree burns, and be hunted down and easily killed by any of them. Also, so it's as Asian. So, if we assume that he lived in Asia, sorry, are we Asians? And sorry, Asians. And he would be even worse off, as the little G and Denisovans would use guerrilla warfare to kill him. That would be a very hostile place to the Anunnaki. Therefore, they wouldn't come here.
And his flesh, blood, and intelligence are kneaded into clay by the mother goddess Ninhursag.
Oh my gosh. Kneaded into clay?
With this mixture, she creates 7 male and 7 female human beings all at the same time. These 14 new creatures are exceptionally fertile, and soon there are hundreds and then thousands of people on the earth.
But here's something even worse. They're really dangerous. Remember, in a real history? Yeah, you're stupid, apparently the Anunnaki are way more stupid than we thought. Therefore they all got killed somehow. And already on a filled up earth with hostile creatures, you get more creatures that could be hostile, who could be again hostile.
All doing the work which once occupied the Anunnaki workers.
But then they probably would use actual pickaxes.
The story goes on to say that the humans grow very noisy and even obnoxious, and disturb Enlil to the point that he decides to destroy them all. Didn't Apsu and Tiamat have the same challenge with their kids? I guess history truly is doomed to repeat itself, unless we can learn from our past mistakes.
You're stupid. Wrong. He also talks to like it's real history, and also this is mythology and continuing.
Anyways, the significant part of this...
And continuing, why would the Anunnaki want that? The Anunnaki would certainly be dead by now, because they just made it even more, holy cow, smarter species than the rest that could easily overthrow them and kill them all. And with already a bunch of dangers running around the place, I don't think that's a really good idea.
Story is that it says that they produced the men and women at the same time. It's important to note this because for thousands of years we've been taught by the religious institutions of the world that the man came first. And
it makes a lot of sense because a lot of marriages, like the men are older than the women.
That seems to pervade through our patriarchal society in a rather uncomfortable way. I hope that today, as we become more aware of these older stories,
but here's the problem. This was not real. And there's not much evidence for it. There is way much more evidence for us slowly evolving from the Chromemazone and reaching our glubby hands outside of Africa. Also, we're saying Adam's clock is way too north and way too young. Some say it's 200 years old. Also, maybe they're right. But there could be a 100,000 year difference between that.
We might come to have a deeper understanding within us that
Probably no. No, because actually, we already have a very deep
we truly are all
understanding.
equal, and the patriarchy can fade away into a society that respects and honors all sexes equally. Returning to the main
That is important.
story, we saw Enki and Ninhursag have been toying with the genetics until they could create a perfect being, one who could reproduce and think for themselves. The moment they did, it marked a huge turning point for everything, because the success of this experiment changes the human genome to enlighten mankind. But as mentioned before,
But there's not much differences between chimpanzee's genome and human and Homo sapiens genomes. Sorry.
this was the beginning of a huge problem, because Enlil did not want humanity to become a sovereign species of their own. He had plans to make little robot people to work for him, and then he was going to just outright destroy them all. When he found out what Enki had done, he was furious and exiled the humans from the Anunnaki settlements.
But that's a big problem, because they will learn from their cousins, and soon you will get eaten. I am not lying. Humans sometimes go crazy. Cannibalism has happened before. It's dirty. But eating your cousins? Less guilty, but still pretty guilty. That I did. One of my ancestors did that.
Now, as a side tangent, here's something I think you're really
And it's not true, because the Anunnaki would be stupid enough to let... And also, why would Enki want to make a species like that? They would probably want to kill him. Actually, no. But maybe they just try to kill him.
going to enjoy. In the first episode of Ancient Civilizations on Gaia, Greg Braden explained something that is positively mind-blowing.
And you're demifying scientists, you're mystifying scientists, and praising non-scientists, specifically authors.
relevant discovery found within our
It was not an actual discovery.
own DNA. Check this out.
No, the genome between chimpanzees and humans are very similar.
Shedding new light on these creation stories is with the mystery of human chromosome number 2.
Human chromosome number 2 was just two genes fused. That's the explanation we have today, and it's pretty good.
Chromosome number 2 is the second largest chromosome in the human body. It forms about 8% of the DNA in every cell. And what makes it such a mystery is that it appears to be the result of an ancient fusion of pre-existing chromosomes from primates that have been fused in a very precise way, and the fusion site has been modified and stabilized.
It hasn't.
So that human chromosome number 2 is optimized for us today. This has happened in a way...
Wrong. Let me just talk about... Let's talk about human chromosome number 2.
that cannot be...
So, this is the end of this. Okay, so I did a little debunking there, but continuing, when we're talking about someone called the Anunnaki, and therefore, why would they come here? The last episode they say called. Now, why make humans? If you could just automate it. Look at the part with my third. Why not just automate? Why not just be able to and have robots with controls and control for the safety of Mirabu. You don't have to go there yourselves. You don't have to go there and face the consequences of getting stabbed in the leg by a random Chromemazone. You don't need to take your chances. Don't get stabbed by a random Chromemazone. Go out. Live in Mirabu. Boo. And also, how would life exist? Even water-based life on a planet with such a big orbit. Their cells probably evolved in water, which just makes it unsuitable for Earth. Next. When you have a sovereign species, they might overthrow you. And same with Homo sapiens. The Homo sapiens could kill them and eat their meat, I guess. I know it sounds like cannibalism, but it's not cannibalism because the Anunnaki are a different species. Also, human chromosome 2 it was actually fused in a natural way. It was fused in a natural way. So please don't claim it doesn't. Didn't.
Explained by evolution as we know it today. Now, why is this important?
It can. Like I said, it formed in a natural way.
Human chromosome number 2 contains the genes that largely set us apart from all other forms of life. The cortex of the human brain that gives us the ability for things like logic, empathy, sympathy, compassion.
Let's look at human chromosome number 2, shall we? Want to? Let's search it up. Okay, let's search up human chromosome 2 is one of the 23 pairs of chromosomes in humans. This is the second largest chromosome in human. Okay. So base pair with 242 million base pairs and representing almost 8% of all total DNA in human cells. Let's continue. Read 24. Suppose they believe that this is actually a fusion, which would make a lot more sense since and stuff can actually fuse together. What? Wait, problem. Oh. Okay, chromosome number 2. Its function. Making proteins. That's all it does. Chromosome 2 for making 1,200 to 1,300 genes that provide instructions for making proteins. These proteins perform various roles in the body. Chromosome 2 is the second largest human chromosome, spanning 242 million base pairs and representing almost 8% of all human DNA and cells. It also contains the Hoxt homeobox gene cluster. Now do you see it? Now. Oh.
The ability to consciously trigger.
That is not its function. Its function is, as we've searched up, is actually just making proteins who have various roles in the body. So sorry, Mister. Wait, who is this guy again? This might overlap with the last clip. But we need to see this. Wait. I'm trying to get to the lat. Oh, please, no.
Because the success of this experiment changes the human. Now, as a side tangent, here's something I think you're really going to enjoy. In the first episode of Ancient Civilizations on Gaia, Greg Braden explained something that is.
Great Braden. I'm gonna put Great Braden. Great Braden. It's Greg Braden. It's Greg Braden. I remember this guy. He's a bestseller author / scientist, so he could be a little one, but Greg Braden it's not great, it's Greg Braden. Really? Is Greg Braden a no, I don't want it a scientist. Let's see. Yes, he's actually considered a scientist. He's there. Scientist on human evolution. It just said scientist. I guess that's for me to say this guy's a little more credible, but I'm trying to see this. Star Spirit Science is not that deep. He's just a scientist out of many. But we don't know his field. Luckily, he's
self-healing within our bodies. These are possible because of what has happened with human chromosome number 2.
wrong.
Could chromosome number 2 be the work of a master geneticist?
Can I just say something? Chromosome number 2 wasn't actually does look like it naturally was made. Second, I can't know which kind of scientist he is. Like, is he a virologist? Is he even a geologist? Yeah, because one geologist actually throws. Because sometimes people sometimes scientists can do throw people under the bus. Why isn't it working?
Otherwise known as Enki from the Sumerian text.
With this revelation, the tablets give us a significantly different perspective of the Garden of Eden story and our origins. Now, at this time, I have to encourage you to really practice looking at this openly without judgment or fear, because there are deep roots within our psyche from generations of institutional Judaism and Christianity.
I think you're also trying to keep people from questioning you. This is what you're saying. You're basically saying, what spirit science is basically saying here is that please do not judge me.
That have essentially
I am indoctrinating you. Actually, no. That.
indoctrinated us into believing a very specific ideology.
Well, they didn't. It was just a bunch of, it's a religion. It's beliefs. And continuing, if we didn't indoctrinated us, what about science?
For example, the serpent in the Garden of Eden is said to be Satan. Generally, if you suggest an alternate interpretation to this, people naturally assume you must be evil yourself.
They don't. Can I say something? This is actually not true. But Mom does have this reaction whenever I'm talking about her. She's trying to throw evolution under the bus. And that's the same what you're doing here. You're talking about intelligent design, which is very, very similar. Yes, they can be doing this, but applying this to all Christians is stereotypical, since it's not all Christians actually do this. And honestly,
So with that as a disclaimer, we get to see that the myths on which the Garden of Eden story were based actually suggests that the character who eventually was written to be the snake was really freeing us from our captivity. It was due to Enki's modification that we tasted a form of knowledge that we were not previously capable of comprehending.
that's stupid, because they didn't actually genetically modify us. And also, why would they be here? You're on a hostile planet. Again, same inconsistencies. He's just repeating. Made by the Anunnaki. I'm already through here, but the thing is,
Thinking for ourselves, becoming self-aware, and capable of
and thinking for ourselves, and then why give us that? That would cause that would cause their downfall, as giving people the right to think for themselves, and people the ability to, and also, human chromosome 2, remember, makes proteins. Other than that there is no other piece of evidence other than Adam's clock that you can pull out of your ass.
doing anything because we were no longer running on the Anunnaki programs, but our
That's very, very wrong.
own unique consciousness.
Own unique consciousness. The Syrians don't exist because because if they were fourth dimensional creatures, they would always go through different times, which they would use to defeat the rivals, found new civilizations, and find out stuff of using their power to move through time. It has nothing to do with consciousness. Also, consciousness is just now please do not talk about consciousness as a trait. Eight. This is what quantum mystics do.
However, this also came at a price. We were capable of doing anything, including experiencing within us both good and evil. We tasted from the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Perhaps this is why the snake was written to be Satan in the creation of the Old Testament, because they had stories of paradise and gods from their ancient history, and the authors naturally assumed that the exile from the Garden of Eden was a punishment. In a way, it was, because we had to learn to fend for ourselves from now on. But ultimately, that would bring us to, over the next thousands of years, evolve our consciousness high.
No, they didn't evolve their consciousness. No evolvement of consciousness ever happened. Actually, it did happen, but here's the difference. Human consciousness, but we normally grasp that air when we're talking about consciousness. So you don't know it any better than any scientists. Any better than scientists. Because specifically, neurologists will not understand this. It's problematic. It is very hard to explain. So hard to explain that we don't even know what it is ourselves. So stop talking like you know consciousness. And understand that it's really complicated and really hard to understand.
And become the beings that we are today. The beautiful thing is, we're still growing, and one day we will evolve to the point where we will know and understand that we are all connected, and we.
Nope. But also, continuing, more problems with this. You say that you're talking about consciousness. Not just that, you're talking about intelligent design. The problem with the Anunnaki even existing is that all the problems I've stated before, I don't need to change them, and because he doesn't change his theme. Continuing. Maybe I can add to another inconsistency. I found another inconsistency. And that's the fact that he thinks that origins of humanity is like so mysterious. It really isn't that mysterious. And he also believes that it's really just a mystery. It's not really a mystery.
We will travel and explore the universe and experience a life almost unimaginable to us today. Now, there's one more fun thing about all of this that I wish to share with you. Genesis 3:8 says, "Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, 'Where are you?' He answered, 'I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid.' And he said, 'Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?'" Okay, let's break this down. First, God is walking through the garden. He's walking, implying he has a physical body. In this classic scene, God is walking through the garden calling for Adam and Eve. He doesn't know where they are. He's God, but he doesn't know where Adam and Eve are? He calls for them and they come. He doesn't know that they ate the fruit until he sees them trying to hide themselves because they are ashamed. It is only then that he realizes what they've done. Now, is it just me, or is it a little curious that a being considered an omnipotent creator deity would both have a body, misplace his creations, and then not know what they've been up to while he was out? On top of that, the name used for God in the original Hebrew Bible is Elohim, and this is a word which is not actually singular, but plural. It gives support to the idea that the God the Bible is describing was not a singular being, but a race of beings, or at least.
Probably wrong. That's probably wrong. Also, But that doesn't imply that it was the Anunnaki.
At least multiple physical beings. And as we saw earlier, when Enlil found out what Enki...
No, all these inconsistencies actually lead to evolution. Not leading, you can't just still stick on the Bible. Oh, it can't just be Enlil. It can be the Anunnaki.
He had done.
Either.
He was furious. But regardless of what Enlil had commanded, human beings were created, and this set them on a path. Humanity stepped into a new beginning, free of slavery, and into a journey of self-discovery. What's more amazing is that all of this was inscribed in the Sumerian tablets over 2,000 years before the Bible was ever written down.
This is true. Actually, not true. There's a few more thousand years, like 4,000 years. Yeah, 4,000. Be around 4,000, 2,000. Wait, yep, that Bible was written 2,000 years ago? Oh, come on.
When discussing the story of the history of humanity, this is the part where there is a bit of a break in the chain, making it very difficult to discern the truth. Keep this in mind.
And we've really uncovered what everything has been. We really have uncovered the origin of humanity. There's no point in talking.
For this chapter specifically, because the ancient accounts are very fragmented, and their meanings are not always agreed upon.
Yeah, that's the problem with the Anunnaki theory. It states something that is mostly, it tries to talk about something that is just way too complex and way too unreliable to use.
You see, most stories in the Sumerian tablets document the creation of humanity, and then usually are fragmented until the story of the flood. The flood is a huge discussion of its own, and
no, the flood is mainly of the Bible, and only the Bible.
One that we're going to be exploring very soon. However, there is a big mystery of what happened in the middle.
Also, the flood. The flood never happened, and there is no actual evidence for it. Again.
In order to make sense of it, we have to look...
Also, in between the times they take place, they are said to take place, humans were coming from hunter-gatherer to farmer. Agricultural evolution. We get much more evidence from bones in the ground than writing.
Look to a few different sources. It's definitely one of those subjects that I really encourage keeping an open...
And why do you state sources? You look at sources from ancient times. You're also saying nothing. And yet again, you believe stuff to be consistent.
Mind about, because there are several different key versions and stories about what happened, from James Churchward's account of Mu to the Book of Enoch to
James, Book of Enoch,
actually singular, written down. Drumvelo's account from his books. Keep this in mind for this chapter specifically. From the time of Adam and Eve, our race that at one point a land bridge. From the time of Adam and Eve, our readers of his theory had trouble explaining. From the time of Adam and Eve, our race developed in two strains. One that could live free from enslavement, although they were still monitored, and the others that actually was an island or a stretch of island. To the Book of Enoch, Drumvelo's account from his book,
this is
The
wrong.
Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, which...
Okay, all of these are actually the authors, probably authors who aren't scientists. There are plenty of authors that he states, none of them.
As we mentioned before, did an amazing job of putting a complete story together only a few decades ago. According to Drumvelo's version, from the time of Adam and Eve, our race developed in two strains. one that could live free from enslavement, although they were still monitored,
What?
and the others that were destined for a life of slavery.
That's stupid. And also, it really just. And also, here's a big problem with this the spirit science. This could also. You're also inciting racism. And I hate that.
After the first humans were born, they moved away from Eden to another part of Africa or Eurasia, where they were allowed to grow and develop their consciousness.
That's wrong. Well, can I say something? First of all, while humans didn't develop when they came outside Africa, they barely did. Homo sapiens still have modern Homo sapiens still have a lot of traits of the Homo sapiens, and maybe even Cro-Magnons, which is a big problem for you, spirit science. Homo sapiens spread out of Africa, and how little did they? They outcompeted the Erectuses there, and soon they would spread out of Africa. That's the story, not so that they separated from them. Therefore, or the Anunnaki would have been killed. That's the problem.
Eventually, there was a consciousness shift, and these early humans migrated to a place that was very isolated from the rest of the world. The place that we moved to was called Mu, though commonly
Mu never existed. There is no evidence for it, and there is not even evidence that we even knew where. And also, Mu is just connecting a bunch of islands, probably to explain the Polynesians. But there's another theory that has so much evidence that is fact. It's actually now accepted as fact. And it might not even be a theory because there is so much evidence. It's just fact. The Polynesians simply built boats, and the Polynesian islands were settled a lot later than the rest of the world. Not that Mu existed.
today it's known by the name Lemuria. When you begin to research Lemuria, you
I know what Lumeria is. So Lumeria is actually a theorized landmass in between all Asia, Africa, and Australia. When they found a bunch of lemur fossils with not many. This was the sole purpose of Lemuria, but actually, the lemurs just lived at a time when they were when they were actually in the same continents.
find some interesting things. The original theory for Lemuria was that it actually was an island or a stretch of islands located in the Indian Ocean, connecting Madagascar to India.
Correct.
The name Lemuria actually came about from a 19th century controversy over Darwin's origin of species. Defenders of his theory had trouble
We're done.
explaining how a certain species, specifically lemurs, became distributed in Madagascar and India, but not in Africa or the Middle East, connecting the land masses.
This is the last of this. Let me but now people can explain this. India and Madagascar used to be in the same landmass, and for a long time lemurs probably evolved when Madagascar and India were in the same island, but had separated from Africa. And geologically, recently, India has actually for most of its geological history on Earth has been actually connected to Australia, places more like Australia, Africa, and even longer with Madagascar. The landmass is called Gondwana. You should search it up, and learn some stuff. Let's look at Gondwana. Gondwana. Okay, this is Gondwana. Gondwana is a part. This is the Gondwana after Pangea. I'm trying to look at it, find a. Okay, so actually they were So this is Gondwana, and India actually went with Madagascar, and then it separated. He did. That's when Madagascar started becoming a skull island, a skull island of sorts. If you know Skull Island, but just India, yeah, and Madagascar were together for pretty long. Places. Okay. Alright. Did you see that? We literally didn't talk about Gondwana, the solution, which very much existed. It's pretty clear. Pretty much the lemurs were just evidence of what I just of Gondwana. Not Madagascar and India were in the same landmass for plenty amounts of time, and a long time. In fact, for most of their history, they actually were in the exact same. What is it? Oh yeah, they were in the exact same landmass for so much time in Earth's history. So please, Spirit Science, please don't tell me that Lumeria, that there's, you talk about Lumeria, but you have no evidence for it. We have lots of bone evidence for Gondwana. So, well, that's all. For today, folks. See you next time. Goodbye.